Y'all so busy over here shipping Nova and Noah that you're not even thinking about that we have more important things to think about. Like the fact that the ending of this movie is different from the ending of the book. So I'm going to do this for everybody that doesn't have the time or the attention span to read the book and watch the movie. Let's get into it. Major spoilers ahead. Let's go ahead and start with the 1968 version of the movie because everybody knows it quite well. Zira, the ape, is in there talking to the man, Taylor. He steals her paper, starts writing on it. She says, what the heck is going on? She takes him to her husband, Cornelius. Her husband says, how the heck did you get here? Taylor says, obviously I flew here. Cornelius says, well, actually, that's absolutely impossible, so nobody believes you, you lying human. Taylor then takes that same piece of paper, folds it up into a paper airplane, throws it across the air. Cornelius says, ho, 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 witchcraft, okay? He still doesn't really believe that he flew here, but something crazy is going on in his mind. Zira says, Cornelius, doesn't this kind of prove your theory that you've been thinking about this whole time? Taylor could actually be proof of that. Cornelius has his whole theory that apes actually evolved from man. That's because he saw traces of a culture older than actually has been recorded by them when he went into the Forbidden Zone. And Zira's like, look, this man could be the missing link for all of that. Taylor is ticked off. He said, I'll tell you what I'm not. You're missing link. Get somebody else. Then, at that moment, the orangutan, Dr. Zayas, walks into the room. Dr. Zayas sees that paper plane on the ground. Okay? Zira's like, that's just a toy that floats on there. The orangutan says, that's nonsense. Dr. Zayas actually came in there because he's like, I actually want to get this man gelded. Do I remember what that word means right now? No. But that's what he wants to do to Taylor. Taylor's like, you're not going to geld me. He escapes. He gets chased by the apes, gets caught. Okay, he's up in the net. That's when he says his famous line. Y'all know the line. Go ahead and say it. Get your stinking paws off me, you dang dirty apes. That's what he said. So now weeks have gone by. Taylor, Cornelius, and Zira are brought in to the orangutans to plead their case. Taylor sees Landon there. He tries to talk to him. Landon is the guy that came on the ship with him. We find out they lobotomized that man. So Dr. Zayas is like, that man never talked. Taylor's like, you're a doggone liar. The truth isn't in you. Okay? Cornelius tries to plead his case. He's like, look, maybe Taylor isn't from another planet, but maybe he is from the Forbidden Zone. And then he starts telling about everything that he's found out there. And Dr. Zayas is like, no. And then Zira's like, look, this is what I think. I think he sprang from his own people. There's no reason they should be mute. They have all the necessary organs to talk, think, all of that. I think it just happened. At that point in time, Dr. Zayas is like, I need for y'all to shut the heck up. And he goes ahead and charges Zira and Cornelius with heresy. Taylor is then given to Dr. Zayas for experimentation unless he can really tell him where he's from. Because Dr. Zayas doesn't believe he was Frankenstein. He thinks he's a mutant. So, whole thing's about to happen. The man's about to get killed. Then later on, Taylor gets rescued by Cornelius' assistant, Lucius, who's also a chimp. Taylor's like, hold on now, I want to get Nova. So they go and they get Nova because apparently this man is attached to a woman that cannot talk. Zira, Cornelius, and Lucius take Taylor and Nova to the Forbidden Zone because Cornelius is like, no, I'm pretty sure there's something there. They get there. They go in the cave. Zira sees all those other people coming. Taylor starts shooting at them. They're like, hold on. We don't have to do all of this, okay? So, and Dr. Zayas is like, actually, I'll let all of y'all go if y'all can actually find me evidence from before the sacred scrolls that the orangutans wrote. As they're looking through everything, Cornelius is like, oh my God, look at all this stuff we're finding. It looks like the more ancient technology or culture is actually more advanced. Taylor's like, yeah, that's our stuff. Like, that's our stuff. That's my culture. And then they find a human doll next to the bones of a human person. And then, get this, the doll speaks. They hit the little doll. The doll says, Mommy. Everybody was like, oh my God. Taylor then says to Dr. Zayas, would an ape make a human doll that talks? Obviously not. They all make it out of the cave. And then Dr. Zayas is like, look, if the man was so doggone superior, why didn't he survive? Obviously, we're like plague, natural disaster, anything can happen. But the thing is, Dr. Zayas always knew. He knew that the humans came before. He's not an idiot. He knew. And then so they all make it out the cave. Dr. Zayas is sitting on the stone and he's like, you know what the scroll says? Scroll says the man is the harbinger of death. Taylor's like, okay. Lucius ends up bringing a horse to Taylor and Nova. Taylor kisses Zira goodbye, says goodbye to Cornelius. Nova hops on the horse behind him, okay? Taylor's like, look, I actually have to figure out what the heck's going on here. Why is it that the humans are now mute and the apes can talk? Is it that they've now evolved from humans or something like that? You gotta figure it out. Dr. Zayas is like, you probably don't want to know the answer to that. He's like, Okay, whatever. Dr. Zion says, look, I'm still going to seal up this cave, and actually, I'm still going to try Zira and Cornelius for heresy. And they're like, what have you done? And he's like, I've saved your doggone future. That's what I've done. Taylor's like, and I'm about to go find my destiny. He and Nova are on that horse, and he's walking, and what does he see? The Statue of Liberty. And that's when he realized, oh no, I've been on Earth this whole time. And then the movie ends with him on his knees looking up to God, asking why. Now, let's go ahead and get into the book, because obviously it's not the same way. We're going to start from just about the same point, though. Now, in the book, it is important to know first and foremost that we are reading a story that is being spoken out loud by somebody, okay? A couple is in a spaceship. They see something out there floating around. It's a bottle. Inside of the bottle are some papers. And on these papers is the story that we end up reading. After some months, the man, whose name is actually Ulysses and not Taylor, is finally able to convince Zira, still a chimp, still an ape, that he's intelligent. They've learned each other's languages, because obviously they just can't talk freely. And they both end up talking about where men and apes come from. Some say that apes descend from men. Others believe they both had a point in common, but then they both evolved in different directions. Her fiance Cornelius arrives during their little outing. He agrees with Zira's plan for Ulysses to win over public opinion during like their little animal biological conference. So that day comes, Ulysses makes his case, he succeeds, everyone's on his side. They're like, oh my God, he's an intelligent human being, he can talk, he's not like all the other humans that are on this doggone planet. The planet Soror, that is the name, Soror. So he starts getting invited to parties. He's just like this protected spectacle. At this point in time, Cornelius, Zira's fiance, his status has increased. He goes to meet the professor, and so now they both can like kind of walk around freely and do more stuff. Cornelius has it arranged that Ulysses can go and meet the professor, which is one of the men that he came down there with on the little spaceship. He goes to try to talk to this man not talking. It's like he's regrets. It's like he's never spoken a day in his life. So then later on, Cornelius invites Ulysses on a trip to the ruins, because Cornelius is like, now I can finally investigate these ruins that I've been wanting to investigate the entire time. During that trip, Cornelius expresses feelings that the apes are merely mimicking past behaviors. During this whole little excavation, they end up finding a doll that's made of china, and it is clothed. Come to find out, the doll also talks, just like in the movie. Ulysses at that moment can tell that Cornelius regrets bringing him along, because he's like, man, I actually was kind of right in my hypothesis, and I hate the fact that we are mimicking humans. I thought we were something in somebody. So Cornelius immediately sends that man packing. He said, actually, you can go back home. I don't need you here anymore. In Ulysses' mind, he's like, all right, that means the human era preceded the simian age on Soror. That's what the whole thing is. Obviously, they're humans first, and now they're apes now. So he gets back home. He finds out that Zira and Nova have been keeping a little secret, because Nova is pregnant, and she's due to bust in about 3-4 months. Due to pop 3-4 months. And so, but Zira's been keeping her safe and hidden. And so then Cornelius gets back home. And so he's like, I'm going to prove that we're not just mimicking him. So he decides to take Ulysses to the encephalic section, where they end up performing experiments on humans, which is dumb in my mind, because all this information has been done before. They've already mimicked it with the paintings. Obviously, you already have some knowledge. You already know how it works on a chimp. You don't have to do it on a human. So they end up showing him a woman. And somehow that woman has more memories than anybody. It's really not explained. And so they make her talk. They've hooked up to her brain. They're making her talk. She's talking in the simian language. Ulysses can understand because he's learned it from Zira. So she starts talking in a woman's voice. She says, the apes multiplied. They have been tamed, but they've become insolent. They began talking behind humans' backs. First it was the chimps. Now it's more every day. Humans no longer have books, games, movies. They've become lazy in the brain, but the apes didn't. The woman that's talking says that she became a slave to her ape servant and eventually fled her own doggone house. Okay, so then the same woman that they have hooked up to the brain things, she starts speaking in a man's voice. He says they found the cancer cure. So he's a scientist. They went to go test it on some gorillas, got jumped by those same doggone gorillas. He and the assistants were given cancer. Okay, he fled before he could get the cure to the cancer. Now, it sounds a little stupid to me. Just go ahead and finish testing on me. Why would I want cancer? Give me the doggone cure if we got a cure. The woman starts talking in another woman's voice, where she worked in the circus. And guess what? Roles reversed. Where the humans were in charge, telling chimps to do a little tricks, okay, for some treats. Now the chimps are telling the humans, do some tricks for some treats. Okay, she said, I'm not unhappy though. I'm not happy, but I'm not unhappy. Then, obviously, the apes have fully taken over human society. Now, they leave that area, and soon news gets out that they were able to make a woman talk and some of those things that woman said. So then they kind of come to the conclusion, hey, it's no longer safe for you, sir, on this planet. Nova ends up giving birth. The baby starts babbling. That really makes them think it's actually not safe, because this isn't regular, like, human being babbling that's on this planet where it's nonsensical, or that's how they kind of sound in the movie. But it's actual real human babbling. In order to beat Zaius at his own game, they plan to launch an artificial satellite to test some sun rays. They were already going to do that with 3 humans that could not talk. But now they've planned to switch Nova, Ulysses, and their baby inside of that satellite. So that goes off without a hitch. They're able to make it into the actual spaceship that was still orbiting around in the atmosphere. And then 2 years later, they make it back to Earth. Okay, so they get off the spaceship. Ulysses is super happy. He's like, yes. Somebody comes and meets him. Yes, it's the police. He's looking at that person. He's like, something's off. He hears Nova behind him screaming her head off. Because guess what? It's an ape, okay? Nova booked it back onto the ship, her and her baby. Obviously, Ulysses ends up making it back onto the ship as well, because that is how we are now able to read this full story. Okay, but remember how at the beginning of the story I said there are 2 people. There's a couple reading this story to us that they found in this bottle. Well, we go back to the 2 people that are reading this story, and guess what? Phyllis and Jen, they're apes. They're chimps. They said, my. What a crazy story we just read. And that is how the Planet of the Apes movie is different from the book. Now, if there's an adaptation that you were thinking about getting into but just haven't had the time or the attention span, leave it down below. Let me know. And if I have the time and the attention span, then I'll go ahead and do it for you. Okay, bye.